people from Greenwich who have come here, for which we're very grateful, and the Empower team. And there'll be a number of ambassadors for peace already here and coming during the day. Many other friends of Universal Peace Federation. So welcome to this seminar to examine the principles of peace and the vision of the Universal Peace Federation. Because we're a collection of idealists, activists, people who really want to make a difference. And when you look at the current issues in the world, we really need to make a difference. So today we will be looking at these principles of peace. We're going to start off by looking at a video which gives an explanation of the International Universal Peace Federation, because UPF, Universal Peace Federation, is an international NGO, and we are the UK branch. So we in a sense mirror or try to emulate the different activities that International UPF is doing. So we'd like to start off with this short video. So, ready to go? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
UPF had its inaugural assembly on September 12, 2005 at the Lincoln Center in New York City. Reverend Sun Myung Moon delivered the keynote address.
In closing, I ask you to devote your best efforts for the development and the success of the Universal Peace Federation. Thank you. Thank you.
After UPF was founded, there was a series of world tours where the message of UPF was taken literally to every corner of the world.
That it is time for all nations and religions to break down their barriers. Through this, the era of one family under God will arrive and last forever.
UPF is God's cherished hope. The founders spoke repeatedly of an international peace highway connecting the world from Santiago, Chile to London, across the Bering Strait, what has come to be known as the Peace Road, and a vision for a renewed United Nations. UPF emerged on the foundation of decades of programs initiated by its founders and carried out in all parts of the world. Its growth and development over the past 15 years has been dramatic, if not miraculous, owing in large part to the work of tens of thousands of ambassadors for peace, peace activists, and volunteers who draw from all nationalities, religions, ethnicities, cultures, and traditions, bound together by a vision of peace, a vision of humanity as one global family under one God. The range of programs over the years has been both broad and expansive, from character education to strengthening the family, from conflict prevention to conflict resolution, from poverty reduction to environmental stewardship, from interfaith dialogue to youth service initiatives, from support of the United Nations to partnerships with the African Union, and a wide range of international organizations and NGOs. UPF has a global, multinational, multi-faith network of more than 100,000 ambassadors for peace who support and contribute to the mission and works of UPF. UPF's highest award, the Leadership and Good Governance Award, has been given to distinguished leaders the world over. World Summit Series is UPF's flagship program involving the highest level of leaders from around the globe, including current and former heads of state and government, to address the critical challenges facing humanity.
Very appropriate that we're here on the 100th anniversary of Reverend Moon's birth, because out of the devastation of World War II and the Korean War, he and his bride found the courage to dream that they could achieve something. And it is amazing what they have created together.
Programs have been successfully held in Korea, the USA, Senegal, South Africa, Nepal, Cambodia, and other nations. The most recent structural innovation within UPF has been the creation of a set of associations dedicated to collaboration among leaders from various fields. These pillar associations are: the International Summit Council for Peace was initiated by UPF co-founder Dr. Hak Jahan Moon in 2019 on the occasion of World Summit 2019 in Seoul, Korea. ISCP is an international network of current and former heads of state and government. The International Association of First Ladies, IAFLP, a project of the ISCP, affirms and uplifts the unique role of First Ladies in contributing to peace and development. IAFLP brings together current and former First Ladies from throughout the world, drawing upon their experience and wisdom as women leaders and as role models who serve their countries in significant ways. The International Association of Parliamentarians for Peace, IAPP, is a worldwide association of parliamentarians which provides a forum to bring their experience and wisdom to bear in the search for solutions to our world's problems. UPF maintains that any successful strategy for peace must take into account the spiritual dimension of our human identity, experience, and interactions. Based on this worldview, UPF initiated the Interreligious Association for Peace and Development, IAPD. The International Media Association for Peace, IMAP, represents a worldwide professional network of journalists who support a socially responsible and moral media. IMAP recognizes the vital role that journalists play in providing objective reporting to foster an informed citizenship. The International Association of Academicians for Peace, IAAP, is a global interdisciplinary academic initiative aimed at contributing toward the realization of a world of lasting peace. IAAP is dedicated to building professional networks for academicians to foster a world of peace. The International Association for Peace and Economic Development, IAED, affirms the role of businesses, business leaders, and investors to make the world a better place. In early 2020, UPF convened a rally of hope featuring dignitaries including Pastor Paula White, Cambodia Head of State His Excellency Hun Sen, President Macky Sall of Senegal, former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, former U.S. Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich, former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and many others.
I believe that the Universal Peace Federation and its a broad set of partnerships in the realms of politics, religion, academia, media, economy, arts, women and youth serve as a good model. I believe the Universal Peace Federation will become a cornerstone to build lasting peace around the world and a heavenly unified Korea based on interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universal values.
Celebrating 15 years, UPF will continue to grow through service, dialogue, and collaboration, guided by its spiritual and moral vision of one family under God.
I always feel like it's a good summary to start off with. Let's see. So I'm going to give a short introduction, and then Rev Dr David Hanna is going to take over. Interesting. We'll try and get the slideshow up. So, Universal Peace Federation, is that good? That's great. I think maybe you need to help me. Thank you, Reverend. So Universal Peace Federation started in 2005. Last year we did a 20-year anniversary. And it's an international NGO. And it's been working with the United Nations for most of its time. There we go. So our headquarters is in New York, and their work with the United Nations is quite central to UPF activity. And many times we've supported through UN days, United Nations days. So recently was the World Interfaith Harmony Week. I know in Birmingham you had a major event, didn't you? And we had a much smaller event down in the cafe downstairs. So nice to be back in the ballroom. Maybe for someone who's here for the first time, maybe it's not such a big thing, but there's been a kind of I don't know if I can, okay, let's delete this. So there was a leak in the roof, and it's been refurbished. So we're very grateful for that. And I just need to... That's a good lesson, isn't it? Actually, if everyone can turn off their phones. So, this was the 20-year anniversary that we were celebrating towards the end of last year. And I wanted to go here. Towards the end of the video you watched, the former UN Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, he gave a summary of why UPF is, he said, a cornerstone of peace. Because we have a good model of reaching out to all areas of society. And then he listed this multi-sectoral approach to peace. So if politicians, they sign a peace treaty mediated by another nation or by groups of nations, then there is a tenuous strength to that peace. Of course, maybe the fighting stops. But the hurt, the grieving, the pain, the suffering, the rebuilding, the destruction that's happened because of that war, it needs everyone to be involved to really genuinely resolve the peace between two nations or two peoples. So if it's only the politicians or only a group of politicians, it's a very weak structure of peace. But if you involve all of these wider groups of parliamentarians, religious leaders meeting together, having interfaith meetings, having groups meeting together to have media discussions on the issues between their nations, to have academics researching, giving the roots of the friendship of those nations over decades and centuries, to have business researching how they can make a mutual prosperity between the two nations. Then culture reaches beyond politics, beyond words. So the International Association of Arts and Culture for Peace has a major role, and UPF has come on the foundation. Has come on the foundation of many decades of work by the founders of Universal Peace Federation in the arts and culture. So thinking of the Little Angels who came here last summer, or thinking of Universal Ballet. We had the Go Well Brass Band here in the UK. But there are many initiatives that our founders have taken in arts and culture because they can reach beyond national boundaries. When the Little Angels went to North Korea to perform together with a little girls' dancing troupe from North Korea. So they performed together and moved the hearts of the people of Pyongyang. This was really amazing initiative, having these arts and culture as an initiative for peace. So youth also, to bring young people together, to make a new start, doing joint service projects or doing joint things, sports. These things can then feed into a generation or more of peacemaking. And women also, as we say, women have a unique gift for peacemaking, learned by bringing their children together many times and teaching peace within the family. But there is an innate compassion and an area where peace initiatives can really flourish. So bringing women together from those warring nations can be an amazing initiative. So UPF tries to bring all of these initiatives together. So we have a general consultative status within the United Nations, and that means that we have many platforms upon which the United Nations initiatives can be brought to the grassroots level. Special consultative status means that there are a few platforms, a few programs. General means that we have many. Over the last 6 months, International UPF has been putting out many statements showing how we support United Nations initiatives. And these are other groups with this general consultative status. There was a very good relationship with the former Pope. So there was a private papal audience, etc. But that was based on regular interfaith work in Argentina of a local branch, an Argentinian branch of Universal Peace Federation, doing interfaith work, and they got to know the person who became the Pope at a later stage. So these meetings happened. Ban Ki-moon also went through the different associations. Here we held an International Council for Peace program. It's a webinar of the different senior European Union figures, which is quite an amazing level. And Rita Payne, who lives here in London, was a long time in with BBC Asia. She was the editor of BBC for Asia. She was moderating. The founder of Universal Peace Federation, Mother Moon, Dr. Han Moon, she spoke in Parliament about 14, 15 years ago. And this was the program, together with Dr. Walsh and Lord King, who came from Birmingham, who's an amazing man. Here are some of the interreligious activities in Birmingham. This was maybe a couple of years ago. Here's one we held here. London, again, World Interfaith Harmony Week, National Interfaith Week. These are key interfaith dates within the UK in November and early February. We held some IMAP conferences, International Media Association for Peace, again, looking at religious freedom issues and how media can play a role in the protection of religious minorities. This is one for academics, looking at how Europe can play a role in the search for peace on the Korean Peninsula. Business and AI, looking at how business can incorporate AI and other digital platforms in a way which is reliable and trustworthy. This is an upcoming International Association of Arts and Culture for Peace on the 31st of March, which will particularly look at Nepal and also learning through stories, because people have stories, the stories of their lives, and it's often informed by their culture. So we've had many women's events. I know in Birmingham we've had many. We also here in central London, in Parliament, etc. We've had many events over the years, but this is an example of one. Also, we've been very active on social media. If you want to follow us on Facebook, you'll find out many things that are going on here in the UK and around the world. This was another academic event looking at the perspectives of the Global South. Often we are quite comfortable in the UK. We've been protected by many of the difficulties that have blighted the world. So to have perspectives from other parts of the world is really, it stimulates, it motivates you how to do more, how to direct your efforts for peacemaking, for humanitarian activities, etc. Another one we had was an IMAP event in Media Association for Peace, looking at, again, and we had a very sobering article from Bahrain, because one of the speakers was the chair of the Bahrain Daily News. He said, the West should listen more and lecture less, which is a good summary of that particular session. So these are some of the events, and this is how we're trying to mirror what's happening on international level, on a local level, and this broad, multi-sectoral approach to peace that we're all part of, that we can make and grow these different associations so they can play a role in peacemaking. Some of our advisors are actually involved in back-channel Track 2 diplomacy. Does anyone know what Track 2 diplomacy is? Anyone? No one's heard. Okay, good. So track 2 diplomacy, track 1 diplomacy is government to government. So when there's a preemptively or when there's a post-war situation to really solidify peace, then through a peace treaty, there's a track 1 diplomacy. So governments will send their foreign secretaries to negotiate. Track 2 is one step below. So it's usually covert. It's usually between people who have the government's ear. But they can reflect government's opinion, but they have the freedom to explore how to find peace. What is the other side's red lines? What is it they can't do? Where is it they have flexibility? Maybe we can compromise. Where is it that we can build peace? And those track 2 diplomacy initiatives are really instrumental in the final peace initiative, because you find out the framework of a peace treaty in a way which is not exposed to the media and to people and to populists, etc. So many of those take painstaking years of trust building, but some of our advisors, I know, are involved not through us, but they are involved in track 2 diplomacy in the Middle East. But also there's inter-community efforts which we are also undertaking, where there's community tensions which need to be preemptively looked at and de-risked is the word, so that risk of violence between different communities is taken away. With that, I'm going to finish. You'll see me later on at the end of the day, but I want to call up Rev Dr David Hanna, who's going to make several presentations on the principles of peace of Universal Peace Federation. David was the president of UPF in the Northern Region of Europe and the Middle East, and he's a great lecturer of many different levels of these principles of peace. So please welcome Reverend Dr. David Hanna.
Excuse me, I'm going to make a sound. There we go. That's usually what has happened before when I sat on it, and that's more dramatic and more surprising, but thank you for those who've provided it for me. Very grateful. Yeah, just for some water or something, that would be useful. So, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me clearly? Wonderful. So, I heard that we have even a group from Birmingham. Am I right? Ah, wonderful. Some familiar faces and some new faces. What a wonderful combination. Lovely to see you. Some distinguished ambassadors for peace here and others. Thank you for joining us. Well, we'll go on a little journey today. I have my talks are in 3 presentations, so there's one before lunch. We'll have time afterwards where we can largely make circles, metaphorical circles, and you can, or even literal ones. I don't know how it's going to work out, but we can sit in smaller groups and discuss and introduce each other, because getting to know each other is, you can feel you're like pilgrims on this journey towards a more peaceful world and have a lot of things to share, I'm sure, a lot of stories amongst our friends and contacts here. So, let me have a look. That is my slide, actually. Yes, it's very pale. Goodness me, we've shot up in the world here. It's got mint and lemon in it. What is happening? Wow, thank you. That's very, very nice indeed. I'm just looking for my little tool here. Oops. Wonderful. So this is our Universal Peace Federation seminar on principles of peace. It's, as was advertised, largely an introduction, but I want to give you some kind of background, where the fundamental principles come from, and tell you a little bit more about the thinking of the founder and founders, Reverend and Mrs. Sun Myung Moon. So we want to understand that aspect, and I'll explain a little bit more along the way how I'm going to introduce and use that information. But the first session that I'm introducing here is Universal Values as a Foundation for World Peace. Now, an interesting kind of fact is that roughly today, in a 24-hour period, 385,000 children will be born around the world. So our population is increasing by that amount. Of course, a certain number of people leaving us as well. But these babies will be born, and that will be across every nation, every culture, and every faith, and they'll have a chance to inherit what we are passing on to them. So what kind of world are we passing on? What is this inheritance? It's a very fragile home at the moment, wouldn't you agree? It's the environment is such that people even question, bringing children into the world, which is a very tragic situation to hear young people talking that way. But it does emphasize the fact that education is so important. And within UPF, we do a lot of education and promoting character education, encouraging people to prepare for marriage and think about the role of marriage in society, for example, and other areas. So we have this as our future. Isn't it beautiful? It's amazing. So another kind of little fact, which sometimes gives me hope when I'm a little bit down, is that in around 100 years or so, we could say, there will be a completely different set of people on this earth. And that's quite hard to imagine, isn't it? So, okay, some people will outlive that 100 years, but not so many. So the population, large though it is, will be made up of entirely different people. So again, how are those people educated? What are they made aware of? What are their concerns? What are their values? How do they relate together? What kind of society are they managing to build for mutual benefit? And in the end, it's really the only way to go. So this is what UPF is very much about. It's looking at the long-term and kind of short-term projects as well. These are the founders, Reverend and Mrs. Sun Myung Moon, Hak Jahan Moon, and they've survived a life of persecution and opposition for the work they felt called to do. Father Moon, of course, has passed on in 2012, but Mother Moon is still facing great opposition, I would say persecution at the moment, for the very noble work that she's doing. And you saw something of that in the video, which is quite a good summary. It always inspires me, and I'm connected to some leaders. This was in 1985, Assembly of the World's Religions, which he convened, actually. A number of religious leaders are there. And he said religion should be for world salvation more and with the salvation of the individual. As far as I know, God is not of doctrine, we have conflict, which results from blind attachment to doctrines and rituals, and instead focus on living communication with God. In God's profound heart and his great love, there is no discrimination based on color or cultural traditions between East and West or North and South. Through interreligious dialogue and harmony, we should realize one ideal world of peace. So already I've started to talk about some idea of God, some religious ideas, but I do want to emphasize, Universal Peace Federation, UPF, it's a non-confessional organization. We don't question people's religion. We don't ask them to adhere to a certain set of religious beliefs or promote those. But today's the invitation is really to hear about the founder's own view in this area, to inform you and to be able to understand more about their own religious thinking. Primarily, I think if you asked him, Father Moon would say, of all things, and he was a man of many abilities and many working in many different areas, he would say he is or was a spiritual leader or a religious leader. But then he was also a founder of many businesses. He was actually a very good fisherman as well, or a very Renaissance type man, but with an amazing mind and intellect and a very loving heart. But he understood that we need something, and he called it the Universal Peace Federation, which would be able to be separate from the religious world and yet interact with it and be able to respect it and enable it to have a role and function in society and in activities that promote peace. Because, really his view was religious denominations and all faiths should be at the forefront of peacemaking efforts. That is the kind of common legacy and inheritance of the world's religious traditions, and they should not be fighting amongst themselves, as this quotation indicates, but should be working for the sake of peace for all people. So not ignoring that aspect of humanity, but incorporating it into a world vision of how to bring humanity together. So in that sense, UPF is not a confessional organization, but it is unafraid to talk about religious ideas and ideals. Are you okay with that too? Good. So I think it's sometimes pushed out of today's debate and considered, especially in the UK here, it's considered just a private matter, right? So you had a prime minister like Tony Blair, who, when he left office, was heard to sigh such great sighs of relief because now he could talk about his faith. He could never talk about it while he was prime minister because, there are plenty of people who would point and say this is a kind of sign of madness or something and unacceptable in public life, which is an odd state to get ourselves into, right? So the Universal Peace Federation and other organizations that Reverend Moon started all view humanity as one family under God, or a human family loved by God. And as such, different religions have different paths and start at different times in history, but they are pointing to the same universal truths and to the existence of one universal God or being, a purposeful mind and heart behind everything that we see in this world. And that notion is far from dead, actually, even in the scientific world. If you take stock of recent developments, people are coming back to this notion that, maybe there's something behind these whole ideas of God and religion, because how do we explain everything without an idea that there's a purposeful mind and being behind the creative process. So, interesting. It's an unresolved debate. So let's not exclude any kind of viewpoints from that debate, I would say. And in these talks, we're expressing and putting forward principles of interdependence as a path to peace and a kind of characteristic of a future harmonious society, mutual prosperity, so to everybody's benefit and increasing prosperity, and universal values which are centered on God and allow us to relate deeply together and feel that bond of kinship and family that we are as human beings. So I am asking a question here. Does religion have a contribution to make? Of course, it's nice to hear that, but, some people they don't see. So, we can provide some indication of where it can contribute, actually. True religious practice, and that's what I'm talking about, not the kind of aberrations within religion, and there are many things that we would not approve of, but true religious practice, genuine life with God, seeks to restore peace, and it promotes certain things. It promotes humility in front of God, respect to parents, which is kind of bound up with that as well, thinking of God as a heavenly parent, fidelity in marriage, loyalty, and public service. These things are encouraged and promoted. There's upholding the value of personal discipline, sacrifice, and control of physical desires, emphasizing restraint and teaching restraint and patience and these kind of virtues. And also forgiveness in relationships, should one be on the receiving end of wrong, and seeking forgiveness if one has done something to hurt someone else. So these ideas are common within religious traditions, and also encouraging really love amongst people, to love others as you love yourself. I'll be returning to the topic of love. Is that okay? Not many people are standing up and talking about that, but I'm going to do it today. So, yes, we need love for others as for yourself, love for your neighbor, and even for one's enemies. That's also religious teaching. Here's a quotation from a Holy Scripture, and I will scatter my talk with some of these. I'm afraid I can't provide for everybody's faith or denomination or whatever, but I will just pick some representing the religious world. So here from the Holy Quran, you have prayer restrains one from shameful and unjust deeds. So that communication, that resonance with God's mind and heart and values restrains one from doing things that are wrong. And remembrance of God is the greatest thing in life, without doubt. I think that's very beautiful, right? I would carry that in my wallet and kind of, take it out on the bus when I need a little inspiration, right? So in Father Moon's thinking, yes, it's confirming what religions have been saying. The first cause is God the Creator, and that God the Creator has aspects that we see in the created world. We see there everything has some character, mind or heart or invisible nature. It also has an external form, like a human being has a body to surround their mind. And likewise, that is in creation, therefore it must come from the one who originated or created. It's this kind of logic at work, and that means that God has an internal nature and also some kind of, external form sounds like you can see God, but you can't, right? But it's a presence in the world, in the universe, like energy or pre-energy. So, according to his theory, then yes, God is the first cause, the origin of the internal character of everything that we see around us and exists. And it's the origin of the external form of everything that exists. So both of those come from the Creator. in the past, some religious philosophers would say, well, this created world is evil, it's a result of a mistake or something, and only spirit is true and good. But no, both of these come from a good origin and therefore should be good and should be working well together. Also, and this is represented by the plus and minus in the diagram there, we see in the world masculine and feminine, am I right? And where does that come from? It comes from the Creator, the origin itself. It has the origin of all masculinity and all femininity. These qualities are there, and God is a unified, harmonized being. But when God creates, then these things become separate, and then they interact together. And that's also how new life is created. So it's a fascinating understanding when you go at length into this, but I can't do it today. It's really a new angle on philosophy to tie together many unanswered questions and many loose ends. And if that interests you, I encourage you to take some further study in that. But God has this internal character that is comprised of emotion, intellect, will, also concepts and laws which are there, like we talk about natural law in the universe or universal laws or scientific laws, these kind of things. Yes, that is coming from the origin as well. And they're a certain way, not just any kind of changeable way. They have a certain characteristic and they exist to keep equilibrium and harmony in the whole universe. Then God has this external form, or as we said, made up of original energy, which is in all things, having things move and do as they do and be what they are. This is energy even on a molecular level or subatomic level. And that is coming from somewhere. It's like expressed there as God's body, you could say. But more importantly, he's saying that that's not the deepest thing within God's nature. And he terms it a heart. That is at the very center of God, this thing called heart. And that needs to be redefined, actually, because it's just borrowing an English word. Heart. What does this mean? What is this heart? Well, heart is the impulse to experience joy through giving and receiving love. That's something. If it's in human beings, if we want to do something to experience joy through giving and receiving love, we have that impulse, then it comes from somewhere. It's in the Creator as well. It moves someone to create. And this heart in this way, this concept of heart, is deeper than love itself. Are you with me? So that's important. Yes, it's a very common Christian idea from the letters of John. God is love. That's easy to say, but actually this is saying deeper than that. God is a God of heart, and heart is this impulse to seek this relationship of love, and love only exists in a relationship. So you can't find that joy if you're just a God sitting by yourself, right? You want to create something and interact with that. And it needs to be someone who reflects nature, can understand your nature, and you can have a good relationship with. This is what we seek as human beings, isn't it? We want to settle down in life with somebody that we can really relate to deeply and share all our kind of positive and difficult things with. So heart is the source of motivation for creating. That's quite a powerful statement, actually. And it's also the source of meaning. Meaning comes from this. It's the core of human nature. And if we look at the way the world is created, then it has a myriad number of complementary pairs which are at the fundamental root motivated by a heart and this desire to manifest love. You have a world of complementary pairs, human beings, and maybe I've got two dancers there because everybody loves it when the man and woman dance together, right? In the ballet. That's the masculine and feminine coming together, and they're working together in a way which neither can do separately. So that gives a big wow to the audience. But also in the animal kingdom, there is this pairing. I love this picture of the lions because, he sends the lioness out hunting all day. She comes back exhausted. Does that ring a bell with anybody? But at least while she has a good sleep, he's keeping an eye open. He's going to defend her and protect her, right? So you can see what he's doing. He's staying awake. They don't both sleep at the same time. Well, you see this pairing of stamen and pistil in flowers. Sometimes, if you're growing fruit trees, you'll know well. You have a male tree and a female tree. And unless they're somewhat near each other, you're not going to get them pollinated. So, also, in this thinking, which really bridges a gap between religion and science, then even in something like electricity, you have the plus and minus. You have these forces which are a fundamental form of masculinity and femininity. It's not one is better than the other, not at all. They are different characteristics and they interact together. And it's when they interact together that you get a lot of energy and excitement and things going on, right? So we see this in Oriental philosophy. Have you heard of the terms yin and yang? It's quite popular nowadays. It comes from Oriental philosophy and Taoism. But this includes kind of yang would be masculinity, yin would be femininity. And then you have on one side activity and dynamism, which is considered more yang, and receptivity and passivity, which is more yin. It doesn't mean that all women are like that or all men are like that, right? But it's just saying, even a human being, a man can be a combination of feminine elements and masculine elements. But these are two characteristics which exist in pairs. And it's the dynamic interaction which produces all the kind of life and excitement and value to the world. So you get brightness and clarity, which is considered a yang quality, and darkness and mystery. Are you okay with that, ladies? Right? Okay. Well, I said it doesn't apply strictly. So, there are two kind of balanced factors or characteristics. You get rigidity and structure, and you get fluidity and adaptability. Or maybe that's nicer. Sorry, I can't keep myself away from the man-woman thing here. But, when we naturally think about that, right? But still, this is, when we talk about male and female or gender issues, let's put it that way, in our current society, we think on a very a very low kind of sexual level, But masculinity and femininity includes all these things. It's a beautiful kind of multivarious picture of qualities and characteristics, and we need to get back to that and value both, for a man to understand a woman, he has to have some kind of feminine qualities and develop those to be able to, love his child and to care for the child and treat the child gently and, lovingly. So we need these from each other, and learning from each other, and actually in marriage is a place where we can learn those things and develop ourselves in these ways. So yang leadership and initiative, many women show that quality. Nurturance and preservation, that's also a yin quality. Scripture has it, from many millennium ago, many thousands of years ago. Here in Genesis, you have, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. It's pretty male up to that point, right? But this was very much the culture, patriarchal society, and this kind of thing. But then, amazingly, it says, male and female, he created them. right? It's there in a balance. And it goes on through the laws of Moses to say, honor thy father and thy mother, right? So, exalted is he who created all pairs, the Holy Quran, from what the earth grows and from themselves and from that which they do not know. So there are these pairs and paired relationships which are even in a realm which we haven't discovered yet or don't really know yet, but it's there because it's from our Creator. So God's energy indeed is in everything, and when that what we call subject and object pairs, or these dual characteristics like internal character, external form, masculinity and femininity, when they're within God and then projected into the created world, they become separated into separate subject and object, and those have a kind of life force in them that's represented by the green arrows, which comes from God, and that causes them to interact and have a harmonious, productive relationship. So it moves them to have a relationship with each other, like our mind and body, which we're born with, but we have to grow. Part of our journey of growing is getting our mind and body to work together well, right? And likewise, you know, in life, there are so many cases where we're, learning. If you're learning a skill, for example, you're getting your mind and your body to work effectively together. You know what you should be doing, but in the beginning you can't do it. It's like if you start playing the guitar or something, right? And then you've kind of having to force your fingers to go where you want them to go, and then kind of hold it. And it's very painful. And you start getting cramps. And you can only play one chord, and you're feeling frustrated. But keep going and get the mind and body to work together. Soon you're thinking and you're playing. Wow, fantastic. And you become very envious of someone like that, right? But they've put a lot of work into that. They really worked to get their mind and body going together. So it looks effortless, but that's a beautiful result. It's the result of all that hard work and God's energy in everything. So this energy from God moves all subject-object partners to form a common base for what? For their mutual relationship, so that they will unite together and together make something greater than they are when they're separate. Wow. And it encourages unity in order to make something greater. So any being then is interdependent. We need each other. We can't do this just by ourselves. We're created to exist through such reciprocal relationships. We definitely need each other. And this pair system relies on what we call give and receive action. Some initiation, that's what we assign to the subject, or assign as the subject, the one who starts initiating, and the object is responding. And that could be the mind and the body, where the mind should be the subject over the body and not be ruled by what the body wants, right? Oh, don't talk to me until I've had my first cup of coffee in the morning or something, right? No, it's the wrong way round, right? If somebody needs you to talk to them, right? Or, speaker and listener. This is a good one because it shows the dynamism that's there. In a conversation, a good conversation, the speaker initiates, the subject is the speaker, but it's the job of the object to listen. Right? And having listened, then can take a subject role. So they swap roles. And the listener becomes the subject and speaks, and says something based on what the previous speaker said. So you're swapping these roles all the time, and hopefully you're building to some kind of conclusion, and some good idea appears, and you look at each other and say, who thought of that? And you can't say who thought of it. It's just a good idea. Let's do it together, right? So this is how it works. But rather cheekily, sometimes I say, have you ever been talking with somebody and you get a sense after a little while that they're just not listening. Have you had that, or is it just me? Huh? Yeah, and you can tell if that's the case, because once you've shared your obviously very good ideas, right, they will just carry on from where they left off speaking before, right? They won't have modified or, taken on board what you said. They will just, while you were speaking, they were thinking up what they're going to say next. This is not how you have conversations, productive ones. So we need to learn these principles, and human beings are endowed with a kind of freedom where in our growing up to, we say, spiritual maturity, we have to learn to do these things well, and we have to teach how to do these things well. In London, in a city school, religious education. And as soon as I took over the job, the head of department said to me, whatever you do, don't it doesn't work, right? Just have your work on the table when they come in and get them to do the work. Oh, how can you have, religious ideas without discussion? Well, it was true. These children had not learned how to have a good discussion. They couldn't be quiet. They couldn't listen while someone else was talking. These things should be done in the home from the earliest ages. But here they were, 15, 16, and they couldn't do these things. Anyway, I get too preachy on these things sometimes, so I have to watch out. So, husband and wife, it's a beautiful dynamic subject-object relationship. In certain areas, the wife is subject, and, that's very right and proper. So wife sometimes subject, husband sometimes object. Through give and take or give and receive action come all the forces, the energy, the force which is necessary for existing, multiplying, acting. How amazing is that, right? And in nature, all these pairs, they relate centering on a common purpose. They share a common purpose, and I don't know if they're aware of that, but they don't question that. There's a common purpose which is guiding, and they're both kind of driven by. But human beings, we can interact with each other based on different purposes. We have different agendas when we're meeting or when we're talking, or we're sitting down across the kind of peacemaking table. People can have very different agendas, but we need to center on a common purpose. This is one of the great benefits of going deeper into a life of religion, a life of faith, a life which acknowledges God as the center of all that's, around us, because God is that kind of central, common, and original purpose that we can all relate to. Anyhow, harmonious interaction of subject and object means, this produces love, truth, beauty, goodness, all these things. But we can say God also needs an object to love. So God is a God of heart, a being of heart, and is the subject over the created world. So human beings also have inherited that aspect of heart, even though sometimes we're not using it or not aware of it so much. So as God loves human beings, then human beings respond, and respond with beauty. The response to love is beauty, but not physical beauty. It's things that are beautiful to the Creator are such as humility, honesty, trustworthiness, these kind of ideals which are expressed, or virtues expressed in concepts, faithfulness, loyalty, filial piety, these ideas. And they're very much the stuff of religious teaching and our religious holy scriptures of all faiths. And they teach it, interestingly, largely through stories. Have you noticed that? Because children can relate to that, and they get it stuck in their mind, even before they understand the concept, because you can't just send somebody to a dictionary and say, look up humility, and expect them to understand it. No, you need a story. You need an example. You need an ideal, and that's why ideal is very important in this particular teaching. So the result is joy. So this is a creative process, we can say. So first of all, we can look at this as in theoretical terms. There's God, there's a subject-object in the kind of created world. They come together and unite as a new creation, which is also in the image of God and connected to that original purpose. In that way, we see in this 6 two-way relationships, or 12 different relationships in that little system. Are you with me? Where the kind of arrows are, or the lines that connect. So that is all centering on the ultimate subject, which is the origin of this common purpose. So subject and object unite to produce a new creation on a higher level. So how does this work in the individual? This is individual peace, centering on higher values or a higher purpose, or God, if we're happy with that. But if we're not happy with that, we'll think about a higher purpose or some common shared values, as we talk about in UPF terms. Yes, this is the individual peace, means relating well together in terms of mind and body and developing our true character as a unique person or creation of God. So it's mind-body unity, which is building a person of integrity. That means a person whose deeds follow their words, right? We all respect such a person. But that means words associated with the mind are matched by deeds associated with the body. They're not contradicting each other. Otherwise, we find it very difficult to respect such a person. And as an individual, we have to grow in character, we have to mature in heart, in our ability to give and receive love, and we need to develop spiritual sensitivity so that we can become a dwelling place of God, and we can be somehow absolutely in tune with these fundamental principles of the universe and able to give and receive true altruistic love. How wonderful this is. And we respect this in people that we've come to respect, as a kind of community. Not everybody agrees on these, but, there are some which are held largely in high esteem. And they're people of integrity. They're people who are responsible individuals who've developed a heart of love toward others. The second foundation for lasting peace is where we take a developed individual in terms of spiritual maturity and then go on to the next level of development, which is to do with marriage and family. So such a person, on the whole, not everybody, and not everybody wants to get married or has success in that area. So no judgment at all on anybody who's in that one of those categories. But nevertheless, I want to talk about the ideal, and therefore let's think how it's designed to work, if you like, if I can use that term. So peace in society comes about when a husband who's, become spiritually mature enough to engage in a family-level relationship and find a partner to settle down with, can engage with a woman who is also similarly spiritually developed. And they naturally have a feeling, I want to go to the next level. These two come together to create something greater, as we said. That's the purpose of the give and receive relationship. So centering on a higher purpose or higher values, then this creates a family, and a family emerges through this loving couple, and they're giving birth to children, and when their children are born, they should look to their parents and see there is the masculinity, there is the femininity, there is God's kind of mother love and father love. There is God when I look at my parents. I don't have to go off on a long, philosophical search and, experiment with drugs and all the rest of it, right? No, I don't have to do that. I can learn naturally these things, and the meaning of life comes clear to me in this, and the value of life itself. I'm talking here already about true love relationship. And this is a term that Father Moon uses in so many speeches. I would say probably more than any other person. He talked about love. Isn't that interesting? To me, it's interesting because, some people in public life are afraid to talk about that. Why? Because they don't have success in that area or something, genuine in that area to offer. And it's kind of excluded from the public arena and public debate and education even. At school, you go through your whole school life, you're not being taught about genuine love. It's not touched on. Sorry, but I'm being honest. There's so many, I couldn't find one which kind of encapsulated everything. It helpfully told me a deep, true, genuine love is a deep and selfless love that seeks the well-being and happiness of others above oneself, that is seen as a divine and transformative force that has the power to heal relationships, communities, and the world at large. Obviously thinking more about, in the current circumstances, this is how true love can operate. Or another definition from American psychologist Greg Bear is true genuine love is unconditionally caring about the happiness of another person. Unconditional love. Or true genuine love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. That comes from another writer called Scott Peck. So people are thinking about this, but as a whole, we're not really talking about it. And I think UPF would like us to talk about it, right? We should be. And where do we learn this true love? Well, it should be from our parents as our first teachers. They represent God in our life. This is our origin, on the kind of local level, if you like, if I could use that expression. So the family is really the school of love. It's where the heart is nurtured and the character is developed. And it's a primary training ground, a safe place where a child can, make mistakes, but also learn and have help in developing that relationship and their character, which is unique and is going to be with them through the rest of their life. We learn true love in relating to brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents that the family provides, these other generations. So the family is also the school of morality. This is where we learn these things. It's the basis of societal norms and where we should be learning these things and how to properly conduct oneself in the wider world. So leaving the family, when you're ready to do that, you're going to treat others as your brothers and sisters, or your elderly people that you encounter as your grandparents, or younger people as if they were your younger brothers and sisters, and care for them and be concerned about them with the same heart. This is so important. And we learn true love as husband and wife, seeing God in our partner and seeing something which, we don't have ourselves, but it's teaching us more about this through the growing unity. They do say that couples who are very much in love grow to look more like each other, don't they? Does that happen? I'm looking at David and Patricia here, for example, looking very similar today, right? Very much in common, right? Or a wonderful couple here. Yes. No, it is some truth in that, I think. You share a lot of the kind of emotions and you're learning from each other all the time, right? Some people have said to me, this is very genuine, they've said, "Are you Korean?" Well, I have a Korean wife, so my hope is that, our love is enough to actually, anyway. Yeah, I don't know why someone would say that. I suppose they think, this movement is origins are in Korea. So maybe I am too. So the couple then is the image of the Creator, living for each other, the family, and the wider world, and they become a model of true love for the children and grandchildren. How beautiful. This is the original scheme. We tend to think today, you hear family talked about as if it's just a social construct, and you can do it if you want. No, not at all. Not at all. It's kind of the only institution that is ordained and created by God, actually. Right? It's so important and so fundamental. If we lose it, it's at our peril. It will really, herald the decline of society. So a strong family has a focus higher than itself, and it produces these kind of 4 loves, areas of loves or realms of heart: child's love, siblings' love, spouse's love, parents' love. All these things we need to take on board as we grow, and we grow in the family, and then we take that with us and can make our own family. Right? How beautiful is this original scheme? Whoever seeks to gain his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life will preserve it. This is a biblical expression showing the importance of living for others. If you just live for yourself, in a way you lose it, right? The life that you're after doesn't manifest, but you live for the sake of others, and that's very much a byword of Universal Peace Federation. Then you can find really the happiness that you're looking for. It's also there in the Holy Quran. Do not expect in giving any increase for yourself. It's unconditional love that we need, right? Or in Hinduism, in the Bhagavad Gita, of sacrifices, the sacrifice performed by those who desire no reward is the nature of goodness. Any Sikhs with us today? In Sikhism, from the Adi Granth Sahib, what is that love which is based on greed? Where there is greed, the love is false. After lunch, I'll talk about the false love, right? You need a good meal, first of all. So the final kind of foundation for lasting peace and happiness is universal peace. It's our place in the world and relating to the world around us and creating the right environment for good families and good individuals, and for people to find their happiness interacting with each other in myriad relationships. So centering on a higher purpose or higher values, we can realize universal peace. It's a dominion through love and care for the environment and for nature and appreciating nature. It's, yes, it's gaining material prosperity and sharing that with all people. I mentioned, mutual prosperity as one of the key bywords of UPF. It's working together with science and technology for the benefit of human beings and caring for the natural world and for the future generations as well. And it's encouraging true ownership and responsible stewardship, and also mastery of various areas on the individual level. You're learning to develop some area yourself, which you can, through that, contribute to society and to the world around you. So true ownership in that way is responsible stewardship, and what a beautiful thing that is in many dimensions. Whatever we want to go, whether it's in the fine arts or the architecture or scientific discovery or this kind of thing. So, wow. Let me end with a quotation about love, right? This is from Father Moon. From a speech in 1999, he entitled, "Everybody Wants True Love." We are born for the sake of love, live for the sake of love, and finally die for the sake of love. Not only people, but all beings desire true love. This is why human beings, as the highest beings in creation, should embrace and love the masterpieces of God's creation and teach creation how to love. All creation is longing to receive and experience God's love through men and women who have become one with God at the pinnacle of true love. It's a shame that we have not realized this degree of love. Wow, how does that sound? It's a shame. It's actually an undeveloped area, and we need to develop this area. St. Paul knew that, actually. He said the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God. And nature will respond to us, you can be sure. There are some videos which I was watching, you get stuck on YouTube, right? It's a dangerous thing. But there's this very nice chap, American, who goes to kennels where they have abandoned and mistreated dogs. Right? And these strays are just put in a cage, and he comes and he makes friends with them. In the beginning, the dog might be terribly frightened and cowering in the background and growling and doesn't want to be near a human being because it's been mistreated by human beings. So he doesn't look at it. He says no eye contact. He just sits down next to the dog and just says something, "Oh, what a good boy. You're a good boy." I don't think the dog speaks English, but behind the words, is that feeling. Nobody's ever come to me and said that I'm good before, What a good boy. You're beautiful. And the dog starts to change, and then maybe comes and rests his chin on his leg. It's quite extraordinary. These things people are doing all the time because, we interact with the environment around us, and we just need to be much more loving and much more caring, and especially to human beings, to our fellow human beings. That's where, of course, it really becomes super serious. So thank you for letting me introduce these three foundations: individual peace, peace in family and society, universal peace. If you go more to the scriptural origins of this, what Father Moon was doing is unpacking even words which are there in the very beginning of the Judeo-Christian and indeed Islamic texts, which is be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over the earth. That incorporates all these three blessings, but his explanation, I think, is very valuable, right? And there's more to talk about, especially in terms of relationships in marriage and family in this kind of area. So how wonderful we can have these three great blessings: to be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. So thank you very much, everybody, for your kind attention. We will now... That's it. There isn't any more. Hand you back to Mr. Robin Welsh.
Thank you, David. So, wasn't that good? A great explanation. So, we're going to move into small groups. Best between like 8 to 10 people, and have small group, the front left, and front or back left, and also back there and here. If you just change your chairs around, if there's too many, see 4, 6, I think it's good enough for 4 groups that we can just move kind of front and back. So maybe the first 3 rows, or if your friends in the row behind, please join your friends. But so lunch will be at Lunch will be at 1 o'clock. So we have about just under half an hour to share with each other, and particularly about the topics that have been discussed this morning. Hi, actor.